turn on Do Not Disturb on my phone so I don't get notified by my millions of adoring fans.
I actually, I have the iPhone 15 and it has like that programmable button on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking through the things to program it to, because before I had it set for the camera, but I never really used it for that. But I'm like, oh, you can have it activate the Do Not Disturb mode.
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
I have that as the button, and then it automatically puts my my computer in that mode as well. So
yeah,
it's perfect for this. Glad that button has a function.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wonder why it took them so long to do that as like an action button instead of the toggle switch. Because the toggle switch, like for me, is useless. I never change from my phone from vibrate or silent to having an actual ringer. Like,
yeah,
and
I don't think I've ever had mine with the ringer turned on, unless they're like I'm expecting a call from somewhere, and I want to make sure I hear it or whatever. But yeah, I never have the ringer turned on.
I don't think most people do. Like, at least they don't switch it back and forth. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. That's a nice thing. Once I upgrade, eventually will be that action button. It's the only reason to upgrade.
I do like the does yours have the really wide angle lens on it?
The 0.5 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that I find that can be nice at times, because my previous phone didn't have that. My previous one was the 10 or the X or whatever you want to call it. So huge jump. But in that time there's lots of changes that happen. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So So we were supposed to record on Monday, but you didn't get my email or whatever, or that got missed. And
thanks, Apple Mail. Yeah.
And so Monday evening, fiance says, "Why don't we go on Tuesday morning? Go play pickleball." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine."
Is there an injury that's coming as a result of this?
Just wait. I had a very interesting day. So she's like, "Why don't we go play pickleball in the morning?" I'm like, "All right." It's just going to be the two of us because none of her coworkers could make it last minute kind of deal. But I figured it would be nice to get out and do some kind of activity. So I wake up around like 6:30 or so. I'm ready by like 6:45. She's still snoring in bed. And I'm like, "Are we going to go?" And she gives me this nastiest of death glares. She's like, "We're not going to play pickleball at 6:00. I'm like, "It's almost 7. And she turns over and goes back to bed. So I'm like, whatever. So I get some stuff done around like 10:30 or so. She's out of bed. She's ready to go at this point. She's like, "Are we going to go?" I'm like, "I guess so. Yeah, I've been waiting."
Yeah.
We get over.
You're still wearing all the sweatbands and all the short shorts and all the pickleball attire.
I've been geared up this whole time, ready to go, and just yeah. So we get over to this court, and it's a newer. It's a different court to what we play at usually, and there's a trio of like probably college age guys, and then there's a group of 4 older people that we're playing. So we take the back left corner, and we're passing it back and forth, playing for a little bit, and then she ends up hitting the ball across the court and over like 2 different nets.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, all right, great. So I go over, and I hop over the nets. I grab the ball, and when I hopped over the net initially, I used the pole that they have that the net is attached to give myself a little bit extra of a boost.
Yeah.
And mind you, these nets are only like, they're not even 3 feet tall. Or maybe they're right around 3 feet tall, whatever it is. You can pretty much like walk over them, and I'm like 5'7", 5'8", so I'm not all that tall. So I hop over, grab the ball, and as I'm going to hop back over, I decided for whatever reason not to boost myself with the pole. As I'm hopping over, both of my feet get caught by the net.
Ooh.
The net just decided, nope, not today, and grabbed my feet, and I fell and twisted my ankle real bad.
Ooh.
And immediate pain. Like, not a good situation. But I'm like, all right, maybe I can walk this off. And I need to at least get over to my fiance by our net. So I start walking over to her, and it just doesn't feel right. Like, I know that I really messed up my ankle. And I get over to her, and she's like, well, clearly we're done. And there were benches over towards like the middle between the two sections of courts, because there were like 6 or so courts.
Yeah.
So she was like thinking, okay, well, we'll just go over, we'll sit down, we'll take a minute and evaluate, kind of thing. And by the time that she even has those words out, I'm out. I lost consciousness.
Ooh.
So I lose consciousness. I fall down to my knees, and then I regain consciousness just as my body collapses and I smack my face on the ground, on the concrete court.
Oh, man.
And this much must have scared the shit out of the college-age kids, because they were gone. They were out of here. And the old people all come rushing over. There's 3 guys and a woman. They all come rushing over to us. And they're like, one of them is helping to support me on like my back as I'm sitting up. The woman is grabbing a little first aid kit that she had, and like a cool towel, that kind of deal. They're saying slowly drink water and all of this. And meanwhile, I'm just sat there, like, I have a couple scrapes on my knee. My wrist hurts from like bracing myself or trying to catch myself. I have a scrape to the right side of my right eye. My nose is all messed up. Not broken or anything, but all scraped up. And I just feel like the biggest dumbass in the world, because this all just resulted from trying to jump over a 3-foot or so net. Stuff that I've done for the past, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years of my life. And it just decided that Tuesday was going to be that day. So fiance is freaking out because she doesn't know what to do. These old people are helping me, like, just trying to make sure that I'm not like massively concussed or going to pass out again or anything. And eventually I get myself up, and the 6 of us walk out to my car. My sister was at the house, so she is now on her way to this court, and she's a registered nurse. My mom, who was out and about doing errands, is also on the way to the court. Again, she's a registered nurse.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting at the car thinking, I'm not going to pass out again. Like, I feel fine, like, obviously messed up. I'm just pissed off at myself. I hate having attention on me. I just want to drive home and eat my burrito bowl. And just like nurse my sprained ankle. But of course, like, my mom, sister, and fiance like coerce me to going to the emergency room, and where I spend 4 hours of my Tuesday to get an x-ray done. They don't do any kind of CT scan to check if I have like a concussion or any like brain injury, because they don't deem it necessary, since I didn't pass out after hitting my head on the ground. I passed out beforehand, so it was a result of the pain for the sprained ankle. So they did an x-ray on it, and needless to say, I'm in and out of a boot until this heals up. And my face is all like, I've got a bunch of battle scars and abrasions on my face that are going to be...
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So pickleball, sports in general, just not really all that kind to me, especially considering this is the second time I've gotten injured playing pickleball.
Man. Yeah, that's crazy. Like, and it's crazy how something that is so simple and so innocent can turn so fast in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Wow. I know that sometimes some of that stuff, I don't know whether it's like the vagus nerve or whatever it is, the thing that makes people like pass out at like the sight of blood or anything like that. Like if that's something where there's like some degree of, trauma, like your ankle or whatever, and all of a sudden the body just kind of is like, oh, we got to shut down.
Yeah.
And whether it's something like along those lines that happen. I know that I do not have a I don't have a good response to that sort of thing. I would have been down probably sooner than you. Because yeah. So man, that's got to be crazy.
What makes even less sense about it all too, like, okay, so the pain is what most likely caused me to pass out. There's really no other explanation. Like, it's not, I had eaten a breakfast in the morning. I was drinking water throughout we only played for like a half hour before this happened.
Yeah. I imagine a pretty warm day though.
No, it was nice. Like maybe mid 70s. So it wasn't even like a heat exhaustion.
90s or something like that.
No, this was actually a really nice day for it. And so the only correlation between passing out would have been with the pain. But I get up, I'm walking to the car, and it's like, it's a sprained ankle. So of course there's pain to it. But maybe at like a 3 out of 10. Like I tend to have a higher pain tolerance, but at the same time, not by that much. So I don't know. Maybe it was just a general shock of everything, and
I could
that
see
initial
how it could just be
adrenaline boost.
The suddenness of it. Like for example, if I ever have to give like a blood sample or something like that, and it has nothing to do with like seeing blood or anything like that, but just when my body realizes, oh, there's a bit less volume of blood. Yeah. All of a sudden, like, oh yeah, like I'll totally pass out. And so I can see how like if there was some sort of injury that happened, I think my brain would go into overdrive saying like, we got to restart this thing. We got to shut down. We got to restart, It's just like a computer. So I suspect, we always have, I don't know about you, but like, let's say that I'm going on a trip somewhere and I think like, oh, something happens, I break my leg. You got this instinct and you're like, oh, I'm going to be like Bear Grylls. I'm going to take 2 pieces of driftwood, some duct tape. I'm going to, bandage it up, make myself a crutch and hike out of there. But in reality, if I twist my ankle, I'd probably go down for the count. So,
that's why whenever my fiance and I go to like any kind of camping trips, unless it's, if it's a prolonged trip, we always take her car, because right now she doesn't know how to drive mine because of being manual. And that was the problem with on Tuesday, the fact that we had taken my car. And it always, like, hindsight, of course, is 2020, but right before we had left, or shortly before we had left, I was even thinking too, we should probably take her car. And I don't know why. I don't know what the correlation there was with her thinking and why I didn't listen to that, but it was kind of freaky in hindsight. But
yeah, that's crazy. Well, hopefully, things will be back to normal at some point. Now, do you have another trip coming up or anything that the ankle will be a issue for, or anything along those lines?
Luckily not. I have so Saturday the 27th, I'm leaving for the beach, going down to North Carolina with my fiance and her family, and spending about a week there. So very like relaxing, low key kind of thing. Just going to do a lot of writing and reading, because I finally started writing again, but we can talk about that in a minute. So I was originally going to do a trip, maybe to the Adirondacks or just locally, a camping trip after the week after getting back, because it's the last week that we have before she starts doing like preseason for field hockey, because she's the coach, and preparing for school in general. But upon checking my calendar, I ended up having a doctor's appointment on that Wednesday, which screws the middle of the week anyway. And now this injury kind of ruins any kind of hiking. So, so luckily everything's kind of low key. I should be able to heal up from this relatively quick. And the next thing that I have planned for certain is Acadia in October.
Yeah. So that's a long ways out. So you'll certainly be good for that.
Yeah. If I'm not healed up by that time, then something is seriously wrong.
Yeah. I will say though that like whenever I go on the backpacking trips, I always have the trekking poles.
Yeah.
They tend to save me probably about once a backpacking trip. They'll save me from at least starting the motion of like rolling an ankle. I don't usually use them if I'm just out and about, whether it's Death Valley or Zion, a place like where I'm not hiking very far. But yeah, on the backpacking trips, I always have those pulls just because it's just that one more thing. I could just like stab the pull down if all of a sudden like the rock I'm stepping on starts rolling or something weird happens, and this saved me many times. So that's always been my plan when I'm off in the middle of nowhere. Do you to at least help with that? Yeah.
Are you wearing like trail runners, or are you still wearing like boots most of the time, like high ankle boots?
Yeah. Because I have a tendency to like smash the side of smash the bony parts of my ankle against rocks. If a lot of times there'll be like sandstone at an angle, and then my foot might slip, and then all of a sudden you're like bashing it into another rock. So the barefoot hiking boots that I wore on the spring backpacking trip, I mean, they're minimal boots, but they still have pretty thick padding over the bony parts of the ankle.
Okay.
The other boots I've used in the past, they have a pretty good amount of ankle support, which I haven't found to be super necessary, but just so long as I have that padding on the side for when I do, end up, basically trying to kick a boulder from the side, which is, it doesn't go as well as one might expect.
Yeah. I always, whenever I'm out hiking, and I've been insistent upon it since the very beginning, I always wear boots when I'm out. And I've always like told my fiance, like, even if they aren't like super, because like I have a couple different pairs of boots. I have my hunting boots, which are about mid calf, they go up to. And I used to hike with those, but those things are so heavy, and they're just, they get a pain when you start doing any kind of like even 4 or 5 miles, like any kind of short distance kind of hiking.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting, I think they're the same brand that you had been using.
The Solomon?
Yeah, Solomon.
Yeah.
I got a pair of those, and I've been wearing those, and they're not as high up as I would like them to be, but they still provide me that ankle support, because especially hiking anywhere along the Appalachian Mountains and kind of thing that we're doing, it's rocky. It's not exactly sure-footed all the time. You're constantly looking at the ground. So I'd rather be a little bit safer than sorry. Yeah.
And also, another thing I was thinking is my ankles have actually been pretty strong as of lately. Like I used to feel like they weren't the strongest, but I think using the barefoot shoes just as my regular shoes has really, built up the muscles and stuff more. And so I think that's another benefit of just using those as daily shoes, because it's kind of like the use it or lose it sort of thing where, so I think that's also been beneficial in the sort of longer term of things. We were set to, we were going to record about this time last week, but I had a few things going on. I had a water heater that had to be replaced a little while back, and I had a friend in town for a little while. And then after all that was done, my wife and I decided it would be interesting to stay at a haunted hotel.
Okay.
Like a hotel that's legitimately like strange stuff happens there. So it was Old Town San Diego. It's the Cosmopolitan Hotel. It was built in the 1800s. Very kind of interesting history about the place. And then it was originally more of a grand, a large home. The homes back then weren't so big, but it was a large home for the time. It was eventually turned into, there's like a saloon in there, and then there's a restaurant area. Then the upper floor is the hotel. There's 11 rooms there. And then across the street from it is another place that, again, started as kind of a home that became a bit larger. And that place is also allegedly haunted. But it was an interesting experience. So, we didn't experience anything out of the ordinary. But it was interesting because, before going to sleep that night, we also went over to the Whaley House, which is one of the more haunted houses in the U.S. At least that's their claim. And growing up in San Diego, I think it's the 4th grade. Where you go on this tour of Old Town San Diego, you check out all the places. I remember going there, for the first time back when I was like in the 4th grade. But I'd never been there at night before. So we did like a nighttime tour of the Whaley House. It was interesting. Again, I didn't sense anything strange there. When we're done, I'm like, it felt kind of cozy in there. I felt like taking a little nap in there. Probably because it was a bit warm on the inside, because it was a bit of a warm day. But when we went back to the hotel for the night, we're like, so do we like turn all the lights off at night, or do we just turn them down dim so we can see, see anything that happens to be happening there? And there's all kinds of sounds, in a building that old overnight as things are settling and stuff. But it was interesting because people would, they have these journals there where people write about their experiences. And so there's 4 of them in there. So before we're going to bed, we're just reading all these. And there is a common thread is that people will experience basically a ghost cat that jumps up onto the bed at night, and they can hear like purring and stuff. Mm-hmm. And we were hoping for that, but we didn't get the ghost cat.
Oh.
And then also it was I think the wife of the original owner who built the house. That's where she's supposed to be. But it was an interesting experience, something a little different. It would have been interesting to actually have some sort of strange experience out of the blue, but it was a pretty cool place nonetheless. So that was our little experience this past weekend, but no ghost cats, unfortunately. So,
Oh, that's no fun. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever been to a proclaimed haunted house. That's
I would think that you'd have more of that stuff over there, just because things are generally older, on that side of the country than here.
Yeah, it's just not something that I've ever been interested in really doing. I know my parents have done them a few times here or there. We have some that are local to us that maybe like 20-30 minute drive away. So it's not for lack of access, just lack of interest, I guess. Because like you experience, there's not, I don't know, am I really going to experience anything? And if I do, I'm just going to question the validity of it. Like, okay, so
I think that's it, because you're like, is my mind playing a trick on me?
Yeah, is it because I'm expecting to see something? Is it because they did something like turning up the heat at night during random intervals to make it feel like you have chills, or turning down the heat, whatever? Like, who knows? I don't know. It's just not something that I really necessarily believe that greatly in, and so don't have the interest. But it's still unfortunate that you didn't get the ghost cat. Yeah.
I've never really had any like specific experiences. There's been some strange things I haven't been able to explain. This was, I don't know, almost 20 years ago. For about a year, I lived in a house that had belonged to a family member that had passed away, kind of of my grandpa's sort of age generation, and there's this one tall hall closet where it looks like there had been shelves at one point, but now it's just kind of, you open it up, it's just like this, almost like this big, almost like a locker in a way. And that's where, when we moved in, I just put a bunch of stuff in there that didn't really have any other place, just kind of like for storage. And it's the sort of thing where we put stuff in there and then didn't touch it until, moved out about a year later. And when we're moving out, I went through there and pulling stuff out, and kind of in between stuff, kind of near the bottom, was the wallet from one of the people who had passed away. And I don't know how to explain how I got in there. I mean, I'm not saying a ghost put it in there, but I'm like, it's just kind of a weird thing of like, how did a wallet get in there underneath all that stuff when it wasn't there? I don't know. There's strange things I don't have answers for, but I'm not going to say like, oh, it's a ghost.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to sit there and just see something move, and your brain says that should be moving, Mm-hmm. So I don't know, but a ghost cat sounded nice. I wouldn't complain about that.
So prior to you trying to see your ghost cat, but ultimately failing.
Yes.
Another part of why we weren't able to record earlier is that I did a last-minute camping trip to Shenandoah National Park.
Okay. How long were you there for?
Just 3 nights.
Okay. It's a good amount of time.
Nights. Yeah, 3 nights. It wasn't nearly enough time. And a lot of that has to do with the kind of hiking that there was. I mean, a lot of these trails are 4 or 5 miles, but that could vary from taking 2 hours to taking 6 hours. So just because of the elevation gains, the terrain itself. And so we ended up we had two full days there. So we did 1 hike in the morning, and then we went, and where we stayed is Big Meadows Campground. And of course, it's named after a Big Meadows, if you could believe it, that's right outside of the campground. And that was pretty fun to explore and walk around. The first night that we went there, I noticed these Turk's cap lilies, which are just they almost look like orchids. And at least that's what I thought they were at first, but they're lilies, the nice bright orange kind of coloration to them with black dots, and really photogenic, really nice in the forest, a little ways off the meadow. So I spent that evening photographing those. And then the next day we did another hike, ended up doing like 6 miles, I think, that day. And then another mile walking around the meadows, found some bones and that kind of deal, just walking around. So we definitely took it easy. It was Emmie's first time camping, first time in the tent. She did great for the most part.
Oh, that's good.
The deer coming into our campsite and trying to interact. There was, when we went to the meadows, I think the first night, I was photographing one of these lilies, and fiance and Emmie were on the trail, and there were 2 people behind them, and all in the meadow, it was so many white-tailed deer in the meadow, and a bunch of them had babies, had fawns with them. And this one fawn was right at the edge of the meadow and the fire road that Mel and Emmie and them were on. And Emmie was barking at it, trying to like figure out what it is because she has no idea. And meanwhile, this fawn is like, do I play? Do I not play? Do I get scared and run away? Do I not? Like, if Emmie would have like calmed down enough, and had she been off leash, she more than likely would have started playing with this fawn, if the fawn would have allowed it. And it would have been adorable, but not exactly something that we want. So, like I said, it was a great trip. It opened me up to a new area that I had not previously been to. And I definitely would like to go back down there, maybe in the fall at some point, just for another 3 days or so, but going just myself, because that way I can explore a bit better. I can do different hikes that, like there was one hike that I wanted to do, but it's like an 8 or 9 mile loop. It's like rated at 10 hours that it takes you. Doing something like that with Emmie wouldn't be the best idea. At least not right now. She's not ready for it. She doesn't have the stamina built up. And even doing so with my fiance, she would kill me if I tried taking her on that. It just wouldn't happen.
Was it pretty busy there?
No, thankfully not. I think it helped because it was just during the week. We went from we left Tuesday early morning and got back Friday afternoon or so. So just as we were heading out was when it was starting to pick up. The campsites were starting to fill up, that kind of deal.
Was it like a first come, first serve sort of place, or reservations? Or how'd that work? Okay. Yeah, because it seems like everywhere over here, kind of more in the western part of the U.S., it seems like any place you'd go to that has reservations, it'll all be booked up. You know, there's like no way of, getting in at more of kind of a last minute sort of thing. That was
the most surprising thing with this, because we decided to actually do this the Sunday previous. So we decided on Sunday. I booked it, I think Sunday evening, and then we were leaving for it on Tuesday.
Wow.
So very quick, like I said, very, very last minute. But it worked out, and I'm glad that it did. Yeah, like I said, it opens up a new area for me to explore and to check out, because it's not terribly far away. It's closer than what Acadia is, so maybe like 6 hours.
How far is it?
6 hours, roughly. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's like a little bit beyond the distance of, it'd be like me driving from here to a little past Vegas, almost to right about into Utah stuff. So that's a manageable sort of drive. Another thing I've been working on, the print portfolios. I've at this point, by this time of year, I usually select 7 of the 10 images that will be in the print portfolios, and I start production. So I've been printing. I've selected all 7 images. I've printed all of the 7 images. And I produced the prints on roll paper. And now as I print them, I reverse roll the paper immediately, which helps to reduce some of the curl. But since it's been so hot lately, I had one of those, work smarter, not harder sort of moments, where I'm like, if I just take this stack of prints, because each roll of paper gives me about 138 prints. If I take these 138 prints, which is a stack that's, I don't know, like 5 inches thick or so, if I just go put it out in my hot car in the driveway, and if I put a weight on top of them and just let the whole thing just kind of warm up, and it relaxes the paper, and then it cools, as it's still under the weight, it flattens them for free. So, that's been, so anyone who gets a portfolio this year, they'll know that print spent some time in my car, in my driveway to get nice and flat. Because previously I'd have to use a heat press, and then I'd heat press them to get them to be nice and flat.
Yeah.
But since it's been in the 90s here lately, which is
free
been on the warm side for us. Yeah. So, but the process of going through and selecting the images, I wasn't looking forward to it this year, because I had, at this point, 10 or 11 images I was already happy with. And I really need to narrow that down to 7 for now. And then I can, either choose 3 from my fall trip, or, choose however many and throw some more in from the 11 or so I started out with. But I found actually it wasn't as hard as I thought. I make proof prints for all the possibilities, and I just, it's really how the images play off each other. So I want the image to be strong on its own, but also I want to make sure that it pairs well with the image that is in front of it as well as behind it in the portfolio. Not too many orange pictures, not too many blue pictures, and just, so it kind of has a nice transition. Smaller scenes, larger scenes. And so I'm happy that part's done. I'll need to print the title sheets, and then I'll be able to start doing the pre-order for that. I've actually gone through and laid out the zine with all of the images so far. And I think this year I'm going to lower the price on the zine a little bit, increase the price on the premium zine that includes a print a little bit, and also increase the price on the portfolios a little bit. So I like these little minor tweaks from year to year, just based on how things go. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad I'm at the point where a lot of the heavy lifting of that work by producing the prints is done. Still a ton of work ahead of me, but it's nice to have this a little more relaxed time of year where I'm not just as busy with things. It's nice to relax a little bit. So there'll be more of that to come in the next couple months or so until things start getting a little busy again, the fall trip and such.
Yeah, speaking on printing, I just picked up a new printer. Well, new to me printer, I should say.
Yeah.
I'd been running with a Canon Pro 100 for, I want to say maybe 7 years now. And that's just a 13-inch printer. It's using the dye sublimation inks from Canon. And it's
just the dye-based inks one. Yeah.
And it's run me really well for the past 7 years. It's great for test prints. And I had tried doing print sales in the past, and it's always gone back and forth on how much effort I actually want to put into those. So what little prints I did sell, it was good enough for in that sense. But then on the Discord, on the Landscape Photographers Worldwide Discord, Alex Noriega posted about selling his Canon Pro 1000, which is a 17-inch model. It's pigment-based inks. And I don't know, it's just something that I had wanted for a long while to be able to do.
Yeah.
Not only for the longevity aspect of pigment-based inks and the subjectively better tonality that you can get from them, but it's also kind of because of doing 16 by 20 inch prints here and there, being able to have those options available to me in my own home studio sort of ordeal. And yeah, I just kind of bit the bullet before I went off to Shenandoah. I texted him. I was messaging with him Tuesday morning, and initially, like as I was getting ready to go to Shenandoah, and initially I told him that I had to pass on it because it's just, I'm not selling any prints. Like, it doesn't make sense from a financial aspect or from a financial point.
Yeah.
And then we went to the gas station. We stopped, got gas. My fiance went into the bathroom and to get drinks. And it's like, she comes back out and she was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I have to do it." I have to say yes to it. And it's not like the deal or what I bought it for really isn't that much better of a deal than what you can buy them new. The only benefit is that the ink tanks that he sent along with it still have the 40 or 30% left over from the first initiation. So I have having bought now the set of ink tanks, I have about 30 to 40% more ink than you usually do. Mm-hmm. So maybe like $200, I think is what he estimated, $200 better. So instead of spending $1,200, $1,300 on the printer, I spent like the equivalent of $1,000 for it.
Yeah.
Altogether. So yeah, I don't know. I'm cool with it. Yeah. I'm going to be setting it up once I get back from the beach. But go from there.
Yeah, I think having a printer is one of those things that it makes more financial sense if you're selling images, sure, but I think it's an investment in having. It makes you a better photographer, I think is what it comes down to. Being able to, I mean, and I've talked about this in the past, but if I have an image that I'm kind of on the fence on, maybe I like it, maybe I don't, maybe I'm kind of in the middle. If I print it out and I look at it, in that image, when it comes off the printer, it's going to be pretty much a direct match for what I see on the monitor, but I see it differently when it's on paper. And I might notice something about it where like, oh, this right here is what it needs to, what I need to tweak it. So I find it to be an important part of that process. But I think it just, I don't know, there's something about the process of printing where even if you're not selling prints, it's going to make you a better photographer. It's going to make you more mindful of the work you're producing. It'll give you a better feeling for what works and what doesn't. I think it's something that for some people is very intimidating at first, but it doesn't have to be. But it's definitely one of those things where I think you'll be happy that you got that. Now that one has like some of the gray inks in it too, right?
Yeah.
Specifically for the black and white.
I think it has the same kind of inks as what the Pro 100 did, because the Pro 100 has a black, a light gray, and a gray.
Yeah.
The Canon Pro 1000. Let me look this up a minute. I just can't believe how expensive those things are. It is absolutely insane. It has 1, 2, 3 grays, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Black, whatever. It's got a few different ones. And they're MB. Yeah, they have a matte black. Where the hell?
The photo black, and then the grays.
Yeah, matte black, photo black, gray, photo gray, then chroma optimizer, and then your usual like cyan, magenta, yellow, photo cyan, and photo magenta, red, and blue.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the printer I use for doing the print portfolios, it's an Epson P7000, which it's one of the wide format printers. It can use the roll paper. It has, huge ink tanks. It's made for printing a lot. But when it comes down to it, I mean, and it's a monster printer. It's like 200 something pounds. But when it comes down to it, it's actually not that, it's not that expensive. It was around I don't know, $3,500, maybe a little over 3,000, whatever it was for it. And just like with the smaller printers, you're mostly paying for the ink. Yeah. But the reason I bought the printer I have is that for the amount of volume I'm printing for the print portfolios, the ink and the paper actually costs less when you're buying it in bulk. So it actually saves you money in the long run, which then pays for the printer very, very quickly. But I have the first year for the Natural Landscape Photography Awards, one of the prizes I got was a Canon printer. And so I have that as my smaller printer. I use that for printing the vellum sheets. And it's a great little printer. I really do like that. I haven't actually printed any photos on it. I just use it just for the vellum because it handles the paper so much better than my big printer does.
Which printer is that?
But yeah, Canon, it's the something 300.
Oh, the Pro 300. Yeah. So that's the one that's essentially related. It replaced the Pro 700 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's the 13-inch model, but it has pigment inks.
Yeah. And one thing just to be aware of, for if people aren't aware of the differences with Canon and Epson. So with Canon, the ink cartridges for that Pro 300, they're not terribly expensive, but there is something they call phantom ink draw, where like I never really print any color on it, but all my color tanks drain at about the same rate as like the black ink drain. So I think there's like some print head cleaning going on.
Yeah, they do a lot of print head cleaning cycles throughout it. If you can kind of get away from that if you leave the printers on all the time. And the other thing to keep in mind with that too is at least comparing the Pro 1000 to the Epson's P 900, I think is what they're at now. The ink tank sizes are different to kind of accommodate for that in a sense. The Pro 1000 ink tanks are 80 milliliters. The P900s are 50 milliliters. So it kind of works itself out. I don't know. I looked at a lot of debates between Epson and Canon even prior to purchasing this one off of Alex. And the only draw that Epson had for me was doing carbon printing is a little bit easier, or is like really the only option for Epson, or only an option for Epson printers. You can't do it with Canon printers for one reason or another, at least from what I've seen so far. So, yeah.
And then one of the other fundamental differences is with the Canons, you can, I don't know if it's for all the models or most of the models or whatever, but basically you can have a user replaceable print head, which is nice because I've had the print head replaced twice on my big Epson. The first time it was kind of a weird freak thing that was covered under warranty. The second time it was because there was a cat hair that was gummed up in some ink that was kind of getting, and like with the Epson, like it requires basically open heart surgery in order to get into the print head and to replace it and everything. Versus if I had a Canon for my big printer, I could have just popped it out, tweezed that bad boy, dropped it back in there, and I'd be up and running. Wouldn't even need to have replaced it with another one. And so if I was buying right now, I would go with a Canon for the big printer just for that reason alone. But that being said, other than that, I've been very happy with the Epson. But having both Epson and Canon, I think no matter what you go with these days, the technology is great as far as the image quality. There'll just be some subtle differences between them, but definitely I think one of the best investments you can make in your photography is getting a printer so you can see those images, and I don't know, it just gives that different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. I can't say enough about getting a printer, and every single photograph of mine before it gets released into the portfolio always gets printed. Even if it's at 4x6, if it's 8x10 is typical. It just helps me to see that image as a true final product. And I'll never get over how much that has helped my photography and my editing, just being able to do that. So I think the Pro 100 or the Pro 200, whatever is available. I mean, I think I spent maybe $150 on that printer because they have the rebates and stuff that they had.
Yeah.
And like you said, that pays for itself in no time. So
yeah. So we didn't talk about this before, but do we have an artist of the week this week?
Huh. Been a minute.
Because I don't have one.
Yes, we do.
Well, that's good. I'm glad one of us does.
I got to look here a minute, though, because I was thinking of that as we were talking, and like, let me copy this over quick and go from there. All right, we'll run with this guy. I just sent you his link, the URL to his website in the chat.
Okay, yeah.
So, all right, our artist of the week, as of decided 30 seconds ago.
Deciding on the fly.
Exactly. Not because he's undeserving, but because we are unprepared.
We are rusty. We have not recorded for
it's been a minute.
Couple weeks or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So our artist of the week is Lee Nordby. And Lee is a landscape photographer, speaker, and teacher based in the Rocky Mountains of Alberta, Canada. He is as taking from his bio here, he is a fine art photographer with an adventurous spirit, enjoying spending time in the outdoors and immersing himself in his subjects in order to capture scenes in the moment. His elegant and soulful approach to photography is matched by a passion to challenge himself, explore wild places, and have fun while doing it.
And he has a magnificent beard.
Yeah, he does. I can't grow a beard like at all. I have like a shaggy from Scooby-Doo kind of goatee thing going on, and that's about the best that I can manage. I thank genetics for that one, but I'm very jealous of that beautiful beard that he has going on.
Yeah. And all black and white. Looks like checking out his portfolio.
Yes,
which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, he has done some color. I have not seen it, but I think he does. From my understanding, he does some client work, and every so often he'll take color photographs, which is, I don't know, kind of gross, especially given the quality of his black and white photos. Yeah, I'm just in love with his work as I've been looking. I just found him maybe earlier this week because of the podcast that I was listening to, and it's just very nice.
Yeah, a lot of play of light, a lot of interesting shapes, just really clean images, and the aesthetic among all of them is very similar, which is great in terms of the contrast, in terms of the composition. Where you can tell it's a very cohesive body of work. And some of them I'm looking at, I'm like, it took me a little while to figure out what it is I'm looking at, which I think makes for a pretty cool photograph where it makes you stop and think about it. One of the ones in particular that I really like, so it's in the Rockies in black and white portfolio. It's one of the last images called Rock Solo, and it looks kind of like a rocky scree sort of slope with some snow around it, and then one tree there kind of hanging out. Just a lot of visual movement in that one. I just love the simplicity of it. So that one really stands out to me as very cool. Very interesting how the shape of the scree slope really is similar to that of the tree. Yeah,
he has one that's a little bit above that. Starring Rundle, I believe is what it's called. Just really almost abstract portrait of mountain with star trails going through it.
Yeah, and how the star trails match the angle of the slope.
Yeah.
And just you get that movement as a result of it, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it's not exactly I can't say that I would ever think to orient the photograph like that. To more so make those star trails a perfect diagonal and just let everything else fall like it does, because it almost
I can't tell. I think that's just the natural slope of it.
Is it? Like
I think so. Looking at the trees, they all stand vertically.
Okay,
so I think
maybe.
it's just kind of like how the star trails are kind of like a big circle in the sky. This is just kind of like the lower portion of that.
Interesting.
And the question is whether that was something that was maybe taking like a wider view and seeing, oh, these things align. Let's kind of zoom in on this area and take another one. Because otherwise, like, how would even a person know that would happen? So I have a feeling it was through some degree of experimentation, which is always, that results in some pretty cool images. Yeah, it's really nice to spending time with the various images. Another one called Illuminated in that same portfolio, kind of near the top on the left side. Big snowy slope in the background, some trees with a little bit of snow on them. Then in the foreground, there's some trees with some direct sunlight. So you get all these various tones and a lot of triangular diagonal shapes, which I think is just, comes with the territory of being in the mountains and all the other sort of stuff, which just makes them very dynamic. So very, very cool work.
Yeah. Like I said, I want to spend more time with his work, of course. And I don't know. I want to get to know him better in a sense, as best as you can through like interviews and that kind of thing. I might contact him and see about interviewing him for the magazine at one point, because there's just something about his work that's very kind of just speaks to me.
Yeah. And I just followed him on Instagram. He's Lee_Nordby, NORDBYE_photography. And he's got some of the similar work I've seen on his website, but also some stuff I don't see on his website. So he's got some really good stuff on there as well. But just as I said before, very cohesive work where one image fits with the next, even if it's a different sort of subject. But yeah, definitely a good find. And I'm glad that you had someone in mind, because my mind is basically, there's just a ghost cat in there just batting around things, because it's really hot in my office right now. So I'm glad you had one for us here this week. I hope you enjoyed our creative banter. You can learn more about Cody's work by visiting his website, codyschultz.com. And you can find my work at benhorn.com. For further discussion, join us at patreon.com/creativebanter. It's a place where we can interact with you, the listener. And although we greatly appreciate those who contribute by joining a tier, discussions are open to everyone, whether you're a paying member or not. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you around next time.